Chapter 4, A Visit. Ayaan Noto. The sun rose brightly the way I presumed it always would. Starting that day I was crowned king of Amer. Months had passed since then, and I could only guess that by this time, Mircella Benilda and that filthy guard of hers, Laras Sendo, were already planting root crops at the foot of the Karasthea Mountains. Or volcanoes. The thought painted a smile across my face. I lounged on the dais and waited for the masseuse to come. I lifted my legs and could not wait for her soft, warm hands to remove the knots on my legs. I have never been afforded this luxury, and this is something that I overly welcomed, now that Amer was mine. I closed my eyes, and all manner of thoughts were fleeting in my mind when suddenly, darkness loomed over, as though a huge object overhead clouded me. I opened my eyes and was astonished to find the Emperor descending from the clouds he rode, and walking towards me. His eyes drilled holes at me, and I could feel his icy glare even at a distance. I stood up, clutching my robes, and bowed slightly lower, wondering if a simple bow would do since I was now king. However, I reminded myself to be careful. With that thought, I decided to prostrate on the floor. I waited in silence until I could see his shining boots right before me. "What have you been doing?" he asked tersely. I could feel my insides lurching in fear. When I was still a war general, I had been afraid of the Emperor. However, that was on a different level. I knew I deserved the position because of my ability. But now, I was terrified of the Emperor because I did not want to give him any reason to declare war against Amer and remove me from power. I just could not risk all of that. "I am talking to you," he said steely. "Or have you forgotten your manners?" I asked permission to stand up. "Your Grace," I said in a deep voice. Then, I stood up, forgetting about the robes. Never mind if he caught me close to being indisposed, but I will not falter in front of him. "I heard you've been keeping to yourself," he began. "When you have power, you must use it, Ayaan." I cleared my throat, wondering if it would be wise to tell him lies about plans I had never quite hatched yet. "Is there something specific you wish to discuss with me, Your Grace?" I asked. "The tree runners," he said. "Groups of them have started moving out of Sinista. I didn't know there were so many, but there were legions. And they were all meek." He said it as though he was disgusted. "Their powers would be wasted if they remain meek. I need a ruthless leader to guide them." His eyes were on me, conveying a message I did not want to hear. I was still enjoyed being a king and had no intention of leaving so soon. My mind drifted for a moment, wondering about the masseuse. "You will lead them, Ayaan. To the south. I need someone you trust to lead the tree runners on their way to the north. Disperse them as fast as you can. Make sure Akea is covered. We are living in dangerous times now," he said apathetically. I exhaled, not meaning for it to be so loud. "As you command, Your Majesty." I promised myself that more land would be awarded to me once I accomplished this task. And then, I will come back to the Ameresian palace and get that massage. But for now, this was more important than any kneading. "Your Grace, if you would be so kind, let us walk to the lanai and continue our discussion there. And perhaps, I could offer you a cup of steaming tea." The leaves came from rare trees that only grew near the mouth of Karasthea volcanoes. The Emperor did not respond but walked ahead of me, reminding me of my place. I had forgotten that this used to be his mother's palace. Perhaps, he had visited this more than I could ever count with my fingers. I followed him and glanced at the maidservant, motioning her about the tea. The Emperor was already seated when I caught up to him. "There is one more thing," he said. "As you may have heard, a town was burned in Bulaknan to prevent further uprisings. I hope it clearly sent out the message that I would not tolerate any rebellion. Tree runners were already there with a war general, but I expect more from you, Ayaan. These tree runners, they worry me." He sounded impatient. The Emperor looked as though a great thing bothered him. "The tree runners are gentle creatures, and I don't know if I could fully trust them. You see, there's nothing that could be deployed faster. And their numbers are many. Also, have you heard about the last great black egg?" "The dragon's egg?" I gaped at him. The tree runners are keeping it. No one knows who has it, but it is within their clan. It was passed on from generations directly from Princess Sonya's lover himself. He paused. You need to retrieve it. I almost fell from my seat when I heard his last instruction. If we have it, no one will dare challenge me anymore, the Emperor said. Does anybody still believe the tale of the last dragon's egg, Your Grace? Please pardon me for my boldness, but, a dragon? The tree runners speak of it. They believed it. If they believed it and were wary of having this information disclosed upon the land, then it must be true, the Emperor resounded. I prevented myself from further gazing at him like an idiot and poured myself some tea instead. Ayaan, the Emperor said. His voice was low but filled with intent. Find it. Once you find it, bring it to me. There are only 3 things that I ask of you. Give them all to me, and you will hold another kingdom. I will then make you my first hand. I gasped in silence at what that meant. I would be just a little less than the Emperor myself if that were so. Capture the boy wherever he is, breathing or a cold corpse. Second, lead the tree runners south. And lastly, get me the last dragon's egg. Now, he continued, falter in one task, and you will know how it feels like to be my enemy. I understand, Your Grace, I said, putting my cup down, avoiding any splatter. The Emperor stood up without even touching his tea. He looked above, and instantly, a cloud formed and sped down, stopping only inches away from him. The Emperor mounted, and without bidding me goodbye, was gone as quickly as he arrived. I was left staring at the cloud until I could no longer see it, wondering if whatever transpired between us actually did happen. Rhodora, I called out. My most favored person, turned advisor to the King of Amare, was immediately before me. Yes, my lord. We leave soon but in separate carriages. You have to rally north while I will have to go south, I said, fixing my robes. Rhodora's eyebrows shot up. I motioned for her to sit down, right where the Emperor had just been moments ago. I told her about the plans. It had to be done soon because, most importantly, I needed to be back within the walls of Amare and finish that session with my masseuse.